are these people?
Let's get to genocide denial. And let's talk about those who do deny genocide. And I like this piece because I've talked a little bit with you, Reef, and some others about J Street and why there isn't. There's a lot of focus on AIPAC, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of focus on J Street. And it's really strange. All right. So the genocide denial of the pro-Israel, pro-peace crowd, gaslighters. Norman Solomon, again, the Israeli government has displayed clear and unequivocal genocidal intent. Continuing to arm them with U.S. weapons means full complicity in what they do with them. Totally agreed. So he writes, Israel's renewed assault on Gaza comes several months after both Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch issued reports concluding without equivocation that Israel was engaged in genocide, let alone the ICJ and the ICC. But very few members of Congress dare to acknowledge that reality, while their silence and denials scream out complicity. In a New York Times interview last weekend, the Senate's Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, put deep moral evasion on display. Among the slogans that are used when criticizing Israel, he said, "The one that bothers me the most is genocide. Genocide is described as a country or some group that tries to wipe out a whole race of people, a whole nationality of people. So if Israel were not provoked and just invaded Gaza and shot at random Palestinians, Gazans, that would be genocide. That's not what happened."
They actively have been doing that for years.
That's exactly what happened.
What are you talking about?
Because it didn't just start October 7th, Chucky Schmucky.
What an idiot. Oh.
Schumer is wrong.
Idiots.
The International Genocide Convention defines genocide.
Just say stupid shit.
Forget about the fact that his definition is off, and that's what he's going to correct here. Schumer's wrong. The International Genocide Convention defines genocide as acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group, such as actions killing, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, in whole or in part, and, quote, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. Such actions by Israel have been accompanied by clear evidence of genocidal intent, underscored by hundreds of statements by Israeli leaders and policy shapers. Scarcely 3 months into the Israeli war on Gaza, scholars Raz Segal and Penny Green pointed out a database compiled by the Law for Palestine Human Rights Organization meticulously documents and collates 500 statements that embody the Israeli state's intention to commit genocide and incitement to genocide since October 7th, 2023. Those statements, quote, by people with command authority, state leaders, war cabinet ministers, and senior army officers, and by other politicians, army officers, journalists, and other public figures, reveal the widespread commitment in Israel to the genocidal destruction of Gaza. Since March 2nd, the UN reports, Israeli authorities have halted the entry of all life-saving supplies, including food, medicine, fuel, and cooking gas, for 2.1 million people. Again, Trump said it was 1.8. So 2.3, 2.1, 1.8. Hundreds of thousands dead is what I'm seeing here by the numbers.
Wrong.
Now, Israel's horrendous crusade to destroy Palestinian people in Gaza, using starvation as a weapon of war and inflicting massive bombardment on civilians, has resumed after a 2-month ceasefire, which wasn't really a ceasefire at all. They just stopped the bombing, but they never really stopped killing Palestinians or jailing Palestinians, rounding them up. and then not agreeing to the ceasefire agreements that it had agreed to. On Tuesday, children were among more than 400 people killed by Israeli airstrikes. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu proclaimed that this is only the beginning. Of course, we also know that if Netanyahu doesn't stop that if he stops it, he ends up going to trial and going to jail. It's almost impossible to find a Republican in Congress willing to criticize the pivotal U.S. backing for Israel's methodical killing of civilians. It's much easier to find GOP lawmakers who sound bloodthirsty. I will say that Marjorie Taylor Greene, among others, has been principled in not wanting to fund Israel. For a whole different reason, but I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
A growing number of congressional Democrats, still way too few, have expressed opposition. In mid-November, 17 Senate Democrats and 2 independents voted against offensive arms sales to Israel. But in reality, precious few Democratic legislators really pushed to impede such weapons shipments until after last November's election. How convenient. Deference to President Biden was the norm as he actively enabled the genocide to continue. And I want to pause right there for a second because he notably said offensive arms sales to Israel, because that's a bullshit term that Bernie Sanders decided to create. Because there are no defensive weapons that are being sent to Israel. Give me a fucking break. They're all defensive. They're all offensive. Every single one of them. Iron Dome and all. It's all fucking offensive because it's all designed to annihilate the Palestinian people. Even if it's protecting Israelis, and the intent in the end is to annihilate the Palestinians. He says this week, the renewal of Israel's systematic massacres of Palestinian civilians has hardly sparked a congressional outcry. Silence or platitudes have been the usual. And here we go. For the pro-Israel, pro-peace J Street, and what a fucking contradiction that is, the largest and most influential liberal Zionist organization in the United States, evasions have remained along with expressions of anguish. On Tuesday, the group's founder and president, Jeremy Ben-Ami, issued a statement decrying the decision by Netanyahu to reignite this horrific war and calling for use of all possible leverage to pressure each side to restore the ceasefire, as if he's both sidesing the thing. But, as always, J Street did not call for the U.S. government to stop providing the weapons that make the horrific war possible. That's where the genocide denial comes in. For J Street, as for members of Congress who've kept voting to enable the carnage with the massive U.S. to Israel weapons pipeline, support for that pipeline requires pretending that genocide isn't really happening. While writing an article for The Nation, and the article is entitled, "Has J Street Gone Along with Genocide?" I combed through.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yes. 132 news releases from J Street between early October 2023 and the start
that long, huh?
And the start of the now broken ceasefire, right? In late January of this year. I found that on the subject of whether Israel was committing genocide, J Street aligned itself completely with the position of the U.S. and Israeli governments. Nah. Go figure. J Street still maintains this position that it took last May, when the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to halt its military offensive in Rafah. J Street continues to reject the allegation of genocide in this case, a news release said. It would be untenable to publicly acknowledge the reality of Israeli genocide while continuing to support shipping more weaponry for the genocide. That's why those who claim to be pro-peace, quote unquote, while supporting more weapons for war, must deny the reality of genocide in Gaza. Because otherwise, they would literally be guilty of war crimes under the ICJ. All right? And here is the TDS unconstitutional rampage begging for money. Right. This concludes, finally, our Fuck Israel portion of the program. And we're definitely not getting remonetized for stuff like that. So if you are able to, and it means, please, please, I hate begging and I hate doing this.
Money, please.
That one. We could use some help. Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal, even Substack if you must. But please try to do one of the other three if you can. The reason being that they don't take very many fees. We end up with the most possible money. If you super chat on my channel, you are able to. YouTube takes 30%. If you Rumble rant, they take 50%. Now, you could Rumble subscribe to the channel, the little red button that says subscribe with the little red gift. They give us all of that. So that's cool. You can do that. But again, Cash App, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. And that worked. Use it this week. And thank you so much to Sean. And thank you so much to Kamishwari Kate. And thank you so much to Charlie Mack Friday night, and to Colin Care Bear and everybody else that contributes. It's incredible. Thank you. It really helps, and it really helps, keeps us going. If you're able to, Cash App, $Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. That's with an IE.
Russian link.
Support independent media. We need it more than ever. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.
All people are afraid. No one knows what they're doing. Everything is getting worse. Some people deserve to die. Your money is worthless. No one is properly dressed. At least one of your children will disappoint you. The system is rigged. Your house will never be completely clean. All teachers are incompetent. There are people who really dislike you. Nothing is as good as it seems. Things don't last. No one is paying attention. The country is dying. God doesn't care. Shh.
Good night, everyone.
Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen? To 50,000 died, and now we know our mission. We form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.